Good afternoon. Please be upstanding for the Chair of Stratford District Council, Councillor Jenny Fradgley. Thank you.
McKellen
That's right.
changed his name. So
Don't worry about it. Good afternoon.
to lead us in thought before our today's meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. It's good to be with you again this afternoon. Council, that word comes from the Latin word concilium, which means a group of people who meet for a purpose. And I guess that's what you do today. You're all here to serve those who have elected you and those who haven't. It could be argued that despite political differences, working together as a council or as a team, if you like, serves people best. But let's be honest, councils and teams are made up of individuals, each with their own political ideology, vision, thoughts and feelings, ways of doing things. And how do we balance individual strengths with collective purpose? And the answer is in building bridges, not in building walls. And all councils will have differences. My own church council is no exception. And around this table this afternoon is difference, politically, background, skills, perspectives. However, these differences aren't weaknesses. They're your greatest strength. But as we build bridges of understanding and respect, we create pathways for innovation, creativity, and for service. Building bridges must start with listening, really listening, and it means being open to new ideas and willing to change your mind even. It means communicating clearly and kindly, sharing thoughts, vision, and feelings openly, but always with humility and with respect. Not to win argument, but to find the best solution together. Trust, too, is an essential bridge builder. To trust each other to do their part, to take risks, and to push the boundaries. So let's commit to being bridge builders together, wherever we are, wherever we come from today, creating connections, fostering understanding, and harnessing the power of our differences. And when we build bridges instead of walls, it's then that we truly serve those who need us. So let us pray. Dear God, bless today this meeting of the District Council. Bless our differences. Bless our listening. Bless our contributing. Bless our agenda and our business today, and equip us to be bridge builders for the benefit of all we seek to serve. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I declare this meeting of Council open. You can now be seated. Welcome to this full Council meeting today. Councillors, when addressing the meeting, please stand and ensure your microphone is switched on and that you speak directly into the microphone so it is picked up via the live audio feed. When you have finished addressing the meeting, please turn off your microphone immediately. Item 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Curtis, Hencher-Serafin, Ostrander, Pertigella and Rice. And Councillor Bromwich. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Marcia, any advice, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just on the issue of dispensations, as members know, there's a delegation to the monitoring officer to issue dispensation. It's allowed in the Constitution where a number of members may be said to have an interest in an item that might be discussed later in the agenda. This is allowed to ensure that the meeting remains quorate and that the proper business of council can continue. So in terms of the items identified to me thus far is regarding agenda item 13, motion 3. This will most certainly apply, in which recognising the wider remit of the debate, a dispensation would be allowed. In terms of item motion 1 within item 13, it's also recognised that there may be remit within that debate to consider a dispensation, but that needs to be identified to me at the time. Thank you, Chair. I know you'll need to hear from members about any declarations of interest in general as well.
On items on the agenda.
Chair, I am a trustee of Acton Energy, should that be referred to at all.
I also have to declare an interest as a board member for Acton Energy.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare an interest on motion 2, family farms and farmers. I work in the agricultural industry. I do a lot of work with the Royal Association of British Dairy Farmers and also do a lot of shearing for local farmers as well. Thank you. But I do come to the meeting with an open mind.
Thank you, Councillor Scorer. Councillor Coucher?
I similarly am a trustee of Acton Energy as well.
Councillor Coles?
Thank you, Chair. Just with respect, I'm actually asking for advice. This has been raised before, but agenda item 11, question 1, questions to the portfolio holder. I have to declare an interest that I'm acting for another property as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Any further declarations? Councillor Rock?
I just want to clarify the question about those of us that might be of pensionable age or not pensionable age. Is that covered generally, or do we need to declare that? Was that part of the... obviously, I'm too young to...
Speak for yourself.
So is that do we have a dispensation, or do we have to do it when we get to that item on the agenda?
Just to clarify, the dispensation is in general. It's the bus fare criteria across the piece for all age groups.
Thank you. Item 3, minutes. I now seek a proposer and seconder for the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of October 2024. A proposer? Thank you, Councillor Grocott. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Are the minutes agreed? Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda, announcements. We now move to onto the announcements. And first of all, I believe it's what I have been doing during the past few weeks. So I've been to an RSC performance of Othello, the Leamington Civic Service, Stratford-upon-Avon Remembrance Sunday, Wharton's Lodge, Southam Orbit tree planting. That was amazing. There were so many volunteers there planting trees. It was quite inspiring. And Orbit were looking to actually move out across the district to their various properties, actually conducting more tree planting and wildflower sowing. So I hope that they'll actually be around other parts of our district quite soon. RSC performance of the Red Shoes, Vassar's 45th anniversary celebration. That was quite inspiring at the number of people there who are actually committing time to working with people in our area. The AGM, Rise 3D, a business in Shipston, which is doing amazing stuff with very, very young people actually in 3D printing. Ian and I thought it was fantastic. and side-by-side theatre's production of Masks Off. That is always inspiring to go. It was just brilliant. We sang a lot as well, which is great. Thank you. I now invite the leader, Councillor Susan Junod, to make an announcement.
Amongst some of the things that I've been involved in, I attended a meeting of the LGA online to be updated on the Minister's, Mr Jim McMahon, who is the Minister for Local Government, about the devolution that he is considering, and also on his announcement on the funding settlement and future reforms of funding for local councils. I also attended a district councils network and heard from the Rural Services Network, who are doing a consultation on the government financial reforms. They've asked for evidence as part of the consultation, and an officer was present and is giving the information that is needed to that consultation. I also attended 2 of the many winter warmth events where organisations such as P3, the Food Bank, other organisations and Act on Energy were all giving advice to members of the public on making sure that they were prepared for the winter that is coming, and being able to get not only energy efficiency but also benefit grants for the winter. There were several of these events across the district. I was able to go to 2 of them. A third one I had to turn down, which was in Studley, but there have been others across the district, which I hope other councillors have been able to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the Chief Executive, David Buckland, to make an announcement.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, just to let you know, Helena's going to be taking some photos this afternoon just for the stock. She's waving at the back for our stock library of photos, but hopefully that shouldn't interfere with the debate. Thank you.
Item 5, public participation. Item 5 on the agenda is public participation. No questions have been received from members of the public. So we move on to item 6, minute 335, substitute membership of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Item 6 on the agenda, I've just said that. I invite Councillor Alcock to introduce this report to the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. As you can see in your papers, page 21, you'll be able to see the report provided there, and it is recommended to Council. 1, that substitute membership be allowed on OSC, where requirements in the Constitution, as amended in Appendix 1 of the agenda report, were met, and 2, that reference to OSC training for substitute members under Part 4, rules of procedure to be amended to include that for avoidance of doubt, standard and financial Overview and Scrutiny Committee training was a requirement. I propose this to Council. Thank you, Chair.
May I have a seconder for this?
Yes, I second this and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Kate. Any members wish to speak on this matter? Okay. Sorry, Councillor Crump.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, I don't have any real particular issues regarding this. What I would ask is any substitute member who comes to the committee is well prepared, briefed and contribute meaningfully at all meetings. So that was my request and my thank you very much.
I forgot to say at the beginning, councillors are restricted to 3 minutes, but well under 3 minutes, councillor. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Thank you. We have a proposer and a seconder. Are we all agreed? Yes. Thank you. That the recommendations noted in the report are approved. Thank you. So we're on to item 7, minute 341, calendar of meetings. Marcia would like to speak first.
Not on this item, no. If you want to.
Which item do you want?
8.
Sorry, 8. We're on to 7 at the moment. Sorry, just a little confusion over numbers there. So we're on to item 7 at the moment. Minute 341, calendar of meetings. Audit and Standards Committee meeting held on the 18th of November 2024 regarding the calendar of meetings. I invite Councillor Alcock to introduce this report as chair of this committee.
Thank you, Chair. And of course, with your permission, I'll remain seated while I bring these forward. Thank you. Page 23 of your papers, councillors. The calendar of meetings has been presented, and I would like to propose to Council that the calendar of meetings for 2025-26 be agreed, and that the calendar of meetings for 2026-27 be approved on the basis of these being provisional dates to assist the Council with its forward planning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I call for a seconder. Councillor Petrovic.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this. Thank you.
Are there any members who wish to speak on this matter? Right. We have a proposer and a seconder. Are we all agreed? Okay. Recommendations noted in the report are approved. Thank you. Item 8. Sorry. We now move on to item 8, minute 343, urgent business outside bodies appointments. Marcia would like to actually speak on this first.
Thank you, Chair. Just on item 8, the item relates to the appointment of two councillors to outside bodies, and they will leave the room when this item is discussed.
So, councillors concerned, would they like to leave the room, please? Thank you very much. That's great, thank you. I invite Councillor Alcock to introduce this report as chair of this committee.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's me again. Lucky you. Page 33 of your papers, councillors. It is proposed to Council that Councillors Adam East and Keithley West be appointed as the Council's parish champions council appointment, and that the updated outside bodies schedule be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. I call for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gill.
I'm happy to second this proposal.
Are there any members who wish to speak on the matter? We have a proposer and a seconder. Are we all agreed? Agreed. The recommendations noted in the report are approved. Thank you. Item 9 on the agenda, infrastructure funding statement. Item 9 on the agenda is a minute from the Cabinet meeting held on the 2nd of December 2024 regarding infrastructure funding statement. I invite Councillor Coucher to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. The Cabinet considered a long and very involved piece of work that's been done in terms of bringing forward our infrastructure really audit for this year. This document that I hope we'll approve this afternoon is a document that we have to submit to government and elsewhere, and it really details really all the money that we have accrued through SIL and also through 106 agreements. I know members are more concerned about where that money is being spent rather than where it's coming from, and that's something that I hope that we will report on in future. But this report that I hope that you'll approve today basically meets our statutory requirements and really covers £4.3 million worth of expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you. I call for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Are there any members who wish to speak on this matter? We have a proposer and a seconder. Are we all agreed? The recommendation noted in the report are approved. We're moving on to item 10 on the agenda, Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principle for the period of January the 2025 to January 2028. I invite Councillor Rock to introduce this report as chair of this committee.
Thank you, Chair. Section 349 of the Gambling Act 2005 requires the Council's licensing authority, as a licensing authority, to produce a statement of principles to enable it to discharge its duties under the Act. Briefly, the Act deals with the licensing of casinos, betting shops, bingo halls, amusement arcades, gaming machines and lotteries. This proposed policy has been written in conjunction with a Warwickshire group of authorities to produce one combined policy for the area, with some minor variations to allow for differences in local areas. A 7-week consultation was conducted in July to September, with one response being received with legal representatives of the Betting and Gaming Council. The Regulatory Committee reviewed the policy, and it was agreed at the meeting that the proposed gaming policy should be supported by the committee, and recommended that the Council is approved. The paper is in front of you, and call upon Council to support the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I call for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Grocott. Are there any members who wish to speak on this item? In that case, we have a proposer and a seconder. Are we all agreed? Agreed that the recommendations noted in the report are approved. Thank you. Gosh, we're bouncing through at the moment, aren't we? However, item 11, Councillors' questions. 4 questions and answers have been received and have been circulated to you on separate sheets. Question 1, Councillor Johnson. Do you have a supplementary question, please?
Yes, please, Chair. Does the Cabinet member agree with me that it is obvious that making this change would increase the administrative burden on this council, with almost all the benefits going to the county council? So without a significant advantage to the residents of this district, there is no point in going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Yes and no. I do agree with you. Yes, there is no... the majority of the monies raised would go to the council, and there would be a considerable administrative burden on this council, largely because the systems would be very manual and involve a lot of staff time. And no, I don't believe at this point of time there is an advantage to our residents from doing it. It is, however, part of the budget process, and we will keep an eye on changes and any changes in legislation or requirement from the current government. But thank you for the question.
Thank you. Question 2, Councillor Harvey. Do you have a supplementary question?
I do, Chair. Thank you. Could I invite Councillor Crump to answer the question posed? Will he or will he not publish in January the requested list of topics submitted by town and parish councils? It's quite a simple question, and an answer yes or no would suffice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. The information will be published. Whether it will be January, I can't commit to that, I'm afraid. But it was the reason why it was done. It was to make sure that we were reaching out to our towns and parishes to see whether they had issues regarding what we were scrutinising and whether they wanted some additional voice, and that was the way we were asking. So I do believe ward members also have a role, and are encouraged to elicit town and parish council views of what we should be scrutinising. So I don't think what we're doing is unreasonable, but yes, earlier in the new year, but I can't commit to January, the information you requested will be published. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3, Councillor Harvey. Do you have a supplementary question, please?
Thank you, Chairman. No, thank you.
Thank you. Question 4, Councillor Ostrander. has given her apologies for this meeting, so is not present to ask a supplementary question. So we're now moving on to item 12, questions to the leader. Who would like to question? I'll note that up to 30 minutes will be allowed for questions, with each councillor to be permitted to speak for no more than 3 minutes, and may ask no more than 2 questions. Due to time constraint, please keep your questions concise. Please note for the duration of this item, I'll be taking the order of questions sequentially by political balance. Does anyone have any questions to the leader? Thank you. Councillor Wally-Hoggins. Yeah. Rock. And Darren Pemberton. Sorry. Councillor Wally-Hoggins.
The government has announced that the abolition of the Rural Services Delivery Grant, which is worth £406,206 to Stratford, to the Stratford district. Could the leader please tell us what she's going to do, or what the council is going to do to obviate the removal of this significant rural services delivery grant after in 2025-26? Thank you.
Yes, this is part of the reason why I was on the line with the Rural Services Network and the District Councils Network about this issue. They were talking about a whole raft of funding reforms that had been announced by government, but they were particularly asking for information and evidence to be gathered from various councils in order to be able to feed into consultations. One of our officers is certainly feeding back into that one, but also I have fed back through the Rural Services Network. I've actually signed a letter to them asking them to support councils like ours that have got considerable rural areas.
Thank you. Do you have a second question, Councillor?
So can you confirm, Leader, that all you've done in order to obviate this loss of money is to write a letter and to take part in a discussion? Thank you.
It is more than that, because what is going to be the Rural Service Network are feeding back as a group from all the councils that are represented in order to be able to make sure that there is a consultation response that goes from the whole of the group. I have written a separate letter separately to about the Rural Services Network and the rural funding, but this will have a considerable weight because of all the councils working together on this issue to raise this issue with government.
Thank you. May I ask Councillor Rock for his question?
Thank you, Chair. Leader, if there is an ongoing breach of planning control, I understand that the usual and appropriate way for the council to stop unlawful activity is to serve a stop notice. If developers or landowners ignore the stop notice, what can this council do?
Thank you. That is very much appreciated, that it's a very local issue. The council can serve an injunction to ensure that the use or activity ceases, and that is something that the council officers are aware of and will be working to. Thank you.
May I now ask Councillor Parry if you'd like to put your question?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Our website should be the first port of call for residents looking for jobs, particularly as I understand the council has a number of resourcing issues across various departments. So perhaps the leader can explain as to why the website no longer publicises what job vacancies there are at Stratford District Council, while this is being common practiced in the past and is the practice of other local authorities, including Warwick District Council and Warwickshire County Council. Thank you, Chair and Leader.
We're just checking that one because it should be, and it usually is on there. So we're just double checking that that is the case. This is something that you probably need to take up with the Chief Executive, but it has always been the procedure to advertise job vacancies, and I would expect it to be the case still.
May I ask the Chief Executive to follow that up, please?
Thank you, Chair. It is our intention that our vacancies are advertised on the website. If they're not, then we'll address that. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now ask Councillor Pemberton for his question?
Thank you, Chair. Leader, at the last meeting, I asked a question around an operation between this authority and Wolverhampton Council, and I had a follow-up discussion with the team manager, and I firstly would like to record thanks for the efforts of our officers in monitoring how private hire vehicles work in this district. For context, for some members who may not be aware, about 75% of private hire vehicles in England are registered with City of Wolverhampton Council. It's a law of unintended consequences from a previous piece of legislation. But the impact, and I'm told that they're growing even more and their costs are going to get driven down even more because they can't make a profit on how they license. But the impact is that the quality of the vehicles and the actual quality of the service that's being given to our residents and other residents up and down the country is being driven down to the bottom because of how Wolverhampton actually draws its own set of standards. I should declare an interest being a West Brom fan when I talk about Wolverhampton when I say that, just for the avoidance and for transparency. But will the leader commit to further engagement with other authorities and the LGA to press central government to start to move back to a more sensible approach where private hire vehicles are licensed and managed and monitored in the area that they actually operate, so that we can ensure that certainly for our own residents that they are safe, they have a good quality of service in the future. So really I'm looking for a commitment as to what actions you as leader are going to take to try and raise and make a change for this issue. And I do have a further question afterwards. Thank you.
Okay. Can I thank you for a question that is very much of the moment. Councillor Grocott has been talking about this with the head of service. It is not only Wolverhampton, there are others that also do these private hire licences, and they don't all work to the same standard across the piece. So I'm also equally concerned that there should be safety and there should be good quality, and I'm happy to make sure that is raised and that the head of department raises this. And you know, she's already given considerable feedback on this matter to the portfolio holder and to myself. But we are also rely on government to be able to change the regulation on this, and we're happy to raise that as a concern, either through straight through to government through our MPs or to the LGA, whichever is the most appropriate in this case. But we do need, and I believe there are other bodies, government level bodies, that do deal with the safety of private hire vehicles. We're happy to make sure that our residents know that any private hire vehicle in this area works to the same high standards and the same safety that we expect of any other taxi service within this area.
You have a second question, Councillor?
Thank you. With an observation, I hope that the leader will come back, perhaps with the portfolio holder, with updates on progress on this. I'm not quite sure whether it's a question or not, so I'll ask for some guidance. I asked a question at the last meeting about the number of families who have directly benefited from the £250,000 budget. The leader did commit in the minutes to updating at this meeting I can't see anything in the papers, so I'm not sure whether that's a question or whether that's a something to come back with.
I don't have the data to hand now, but what we have done is ask Nick Cadd to come up with the data, and he has committed to producing the data. So we will have it. It's just a matter of being able to get it, because it's not only the district council, it's other organisations that are involved as well. So it's pulling all that together. But we have had a commitment from the officer that there will be the data will be made available.
Chairman, I'm not sure whether that was a question or an update, but with your forbearance, one final matter. Will the leader like to join me in congratulating Councillor Andy Crump on achieving his 60th birthday fully unscathed, despite the historic number of poor taste and bad puns that he has delivered in this and other chambers over the last few years? So, would the leader like to welcome me, as would the rest of the chamber, in wishing Councillor Crump a happy 60th birthday?
I'm happy to give congratulations to anybody that has managed to reach a significant birthday. And I think a 60th birthday is a significant one, and congratulations to you, but also congratulations to anybody that has had a birthday in the last week or so.
We won't, however, sing happy birthday. Thank you. Councillor Shenton, would you put your question, please?
Thank you, Chair. Last week's regulatory committee, we discussed, one of the items we discussed was public space protection orders. It was no secret that I'm not in favour of the blanket approach. Not in favour. Shall I start again? Not in favour of the blanket approach that's been adopted across the whole of Stratford-upon-Avon. And the two reports were issued at the weekend. One by in the Times, which said that PCCs were concerned about the 4.5% pay increase for police officers, and that this would result possibly in job losses. And secondly, the report on the use of public open spaces, which was in The Guardian. So one of the things, the questions I asked last week was, how will this in theory be operated? And I was told that there are no plans at present for this to be, for staff and officers to be used on this scheme, but that is not a definite. And I was also told there was nil cost to this going forward. So, and the police would be the ones, police and PCSOs would be the ones that intervened and issued tickets. Now, bearing in mind that first report, which says police numbers will fall unless council tax goes up, in which case there's a bigger burden on the low-paid and fixed-income people. And secondly, it concerned me that in actual fact there was another option which we didn't discuss, and I wanted to ask for your assurance on this. One of the growth areas has been in the use of private companies. 19,000 tickets were issued last year by 321 councils, of which 39 of those issued 14,500 fixed penalty notices, and they were because they used private companies. Now, bearing in mind the answer that I got was there is no cost, I'm seeking an assurance that, and the Guardian record this, and another report from the Manifesto Club call this the busybody tax. I called it the fun police, regulatory. I wonder whether you would give an assurance that we will not employ staff and officers on the front line in confrontational issues concerning antisocial behaviour, and secondly, that we won't employ private companies who are effectively nothing more than ambulance chasers and issue tickets for the most ridiculous of things. I have a long list here of some of the things that they've issued tickets for. One of them, which really caught my eye, is being in a group. Now, that's just plainly
Councillor,
ridiculous.
3 minutes is coming up.
So, what as I say, I'm looking for assurance that we won't use either staff or untrained staff or officers on the front line, and we won't be using private companies because we split the profits with them.
Three
They have a
minutes now,
vested
Councillor.
interest. Thank you.
The PSPO that you were talking about for Stratford is for 3 years and is one of many tools that are available for to deal with particular things like alcohol-related antisocial behaviour, and we have had quite a few issues within this town but also elsewhere. It's not a tool of first resort, and if it was, the criteria under the legislation would not be met for the order to be made as other interventions and tools are available. As far as this district council is concerned, it is a matter for the police, and it is not a matter for the district council staff to be involved. We have no plans, and it's never been discussed that private companies should be involved. The question really is a question that needs to be raised with the PCC about the involvement of the police and police numbers. Because it is this particular PSPO that has been used in Stratford is specifically for alcohol-related antisocial behaviour, and there are no plans for the department to use any private companies at all. That has never been discussed. So it is something that it is a question that you do need to raise with the police.
Thank you. Do I have any further questions before we move on? Thank you, Councillor. We now move to item 13, motions on notice. We have 4 motions on notice. As the seconder for the third motion under this item is absent, I will be allowing an alternative seconder in his place. Protecting our most vulnerable pensioners from being cold this winter. This motion, once proposed and seconded, will be debated. I invite Marcia Eccleston to advise on the rules of debate.
Thank you, Chair. The normal rules of debate apply. So we're talking in terms of having a proposer and a seconder. And also the Chair has agreed that the debate time allowed per councillor will be 3 minutes.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Wally Hoggins to propose the motion.
Thank you. The last time we met, I made an impassioned speech The last time we met, I made an impassioned speech made to you from the heart. The motion was sabotaged by some members of this council, which is regrettable, and I received an apology for that with good grace, and so therefore I'm delighted to be bringing this motion back to you for your consideration, and I hope agreement, because nothing has changed. There are still OAPs who are very vulnerable and who are suffering as a result of these winter fuel payments. I understand that there is an amendment in front of us, and I reserve the right, I hope, to speak on that amendment should it be proposed later on during this. But I therefore propose the notice on motion before you in its entirety, as I feel that it fully resolves all of the things that our most vulnerable residents require within the district. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Mills to second the motion.
Yes, I can second this motion, Mr. Chair.
Do you wish to speak now, or are you going to reserve your right to speak?
No, I will not speak at the moment. Thank you.
Can I just clarify that I can speak after the amendment is proposed?
Yeah. Councillor Juned.
I would like to propose an amendment. You have it in front of you to recognise mainly to recognise the incredible amount of work that the staff of this district council have done since September. So you have the amendment in front of you. I reserve my right to speak in the debate later on, but there will be a seconder.
I invite Councillor Johnson to second the amendment.
Could I second the amendment and reserve my right to speak?
Do we have members wishing to speak? Councillor Wally Hoggins.
Through this amendment, the leader demonstrates unequivocally to voters in Stratford-on-Avon that all she's capable of doing is nitpicking yet again over a much-needed notice of motion that deals with the practicals and the stark reality of the cold faced by the pensioners in this district. It is an outrage that both she and all Lib Dem elected members seek to undermine the essence of this motion by grandstanding yet again about the unaudited Act on Energy scheme, who nobody really knows how many households are benefited from, or the location of these households, and making continued reference to greenwashing schemes. Forgive my voice, everybody. We acknowledge the letter that she sent to ministers, which has had no effect whatsoever. She refers in the letter, or one of the letters that I've had sight of, to her council. Can I remind the leader that we are not her council? The Conservatives do not belong to you in any way, shape or form, but we do belong to those that elected the Conservatives into their roles. This amendment speaks volumes about the calibre of those elected, really, Lib Dems. They constantly refer to green matters, and advertising these green matters offers no immediate practical support whatsoever. So to summarise, the Conservatives will tolerate these amendments because really, ultimately, they provide a record of the inadequacies of the Lib Dems elected representatives. And to summarise these amendments, they just say that they've written a couple of letters and have put some stuff on social media which a large number of OAPs don't access or use. These will make no difference in the immediacy whatsoever to those OAPs that cannot afford to put their central heating on this winter. I also note that bringing these amendments to the fore shows this full council. Bringing these amendments to the Conservatives only 1 hour before full council also raises questions regarding the efficient working practices of the Lib Dems. You'll notice on motion A here says that about something to recognise the work. The Conservatives do not recognise the work due to lack of transparency regarding the work of the Act on Energy scheme, and we're also very concerned that a large number of Lib Dems seem to be actively involved with this, and yet we still have the lack of transparency. Thank you.
May I ask for clarity, Councillor? Do you accept the amendment?
The amendments are accepted because I think it is woefully, they're accepted apart from, but we do not recognise the work that is being done by the Act on Energy scheme because it's due to the lack of transparency around the work that's being done. You may wish to come back to us all as to what you've done as far as that scheme and how many actual people have benefited from it. What I'm hoping is now going to come forward within the discussion is some of the other practical support that could have been thought about. And again, I reiterate the fact that these amendments really just say that you've written a couple of letters and advertised matters on social media. So as far as we're concerned, we accept the amendments because they're pretty meaningless, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. May I call on Councillor Stanley?
Thank you, Chair. Just on the back of this motion, I'd like to put this idea out there, as I feel this council could go one step further in providing for those who will be affected this winter by the winter fuel allowance. And we could do something by offering winter warmer boxes to contain items such as fleecy blankets, hats, gloves and microwavable heat packs. maybe the council could look to ask for donations or sponsorship or for the scheme, or use the money available from the budget. The council could look to distribute them through our warm hubs that we have across the district, as they will be aware of those probably more vulnerable in our areas. Or as a councillor, I know I'd be more than happy to distribute them myself within my ward. Ultimately, I just feel that as a councillor, we should actively also be doing something and providing more for those who will feel the cold this winter by taking this sort of action. Thank you.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Passingham?
You'll be pleased to hear we're not putting an amendment to this motion. But I think that everything that we had to say was said at the last meeting, except that to note that in the Cabinet papers about the Warm Homes local grant, it noted that 14,000 houses in this district are D to G or lower in their EPC rating. So there's an awful lot of homes in this district that are going to be cold and damp this winter, and a lot more should be done. Yeah, that's all we've got to say. We will be supporting the motion and the very worthy amendments as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Junid.
There was an urgency to this because there will be a deadline, and that deadline is the 21st of December for applying for pension credit. So, you know, we have to get on with this, not kick it into the long grass. The government, we need the government to do the right thing and change course on this. The decision to cut the winter fuel allowances will put untold stress on pensioners. And this has been raised in Parliament, not only by the MP that is raised, that represents Stratford-on-Avon, but other MPs for this constituency as well, and other MPs across the piece. The Lib Dems have raised this considerably in Parliament, as have many others. And while we understand, all of us understand the dire state that the Conservatives left the public finances in at a national level, now is not the time to be cutting support to some of the most vulnerable people in our society. We have to get on with this. One of the things that I've been really keen on, and I have undertaken myself, I have visited the two, as I mentioned, the two organisations, the two events that were organised with P3, with the Food Bank, with other organisations as well as Acton Energy, to give people the advice they needed and to make sure that they could sign up to pension credit. I hope that other councils will take that initiative to ask for these events to be raised and run in their own areas, as they have the ability to do, in order that they can make sure that people in their own areas have the access to the advice that they need. But they need to move on with it, because the 21st of December is the deadline when you need to be able to ask for people to use pension credit. I have made sure that I have spoken to, I went to speak to pensioners at the Jubilee Centre in Ulster and addressed them and made sure that they were all aware of the need to advise on to get their pension credit. I trust that other councils have also been active and have done similar events and similar active communication in their own area. It is up to us as individual councillors not to rely on our organisations, but to do this for ourselves. I have done it. I hope others will follow suit.
Oh, Councillor Crump.
Yeah, I thought I'd... Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just thought I'd come back in on the figures and the alleged dark states that the Chancellor Exchequer allegedly took over, 20 billion, 22 billion, 40 billion. Yeah, interestingly, the OBR said it was 9 million. So that's 9 million, if only. 9 billion, I do apologise. Looking at that, this saving on the winter fuel allowance was allegedly going to make a 1.6 billion saving. But then they forecast an increase in take-up of pension credit. So all of a sudden, that miraculously 1.6 billion suddenly became less than a billion. I think it was about 800 million. So this winter fuel allowance debacle that was going to save all this money that would get us out of this alleged black hole, is suddenly going to be disappearing. So I think it's all smoke and mirrors, and I think this is, in my view, in many cases, politics of envy. And I do think the people, the vulnerable people, who have very little words and organisations to support them, are being picked on. And it's noticeable, even many of the trade unions were demonstrating against this because they thought it was unfair and unreasonable. And I wouldn't disagree with those sentiments.
Thank you. Councillor Shenton.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll remember the mic right at the very beginning this time. So there are roughly, without rehashing the whole thing, there are roughly 30,000 pensioners in Stratford, roughly 16 million pensioners across the country. And this affects, the biggest effects are being felt currently by 2 to 3 million pensioners. As the non-political pressure group Silver Voices point out, these 2 to 3 million pensioners are just above the pension credit limit. Some with complex medical issues who say they'll be unable to heat their houses this winter because they cannot afford to pay their energy costs. Energy bills will go up in January, the cap goes up again. So what's really required is emergency measures to counter the present and prevent unnecessary deaths and hardship caused by the withdrawal of this allowance. Silver Voices themselves presented a petition with 150 signatures on. And you mentioned that we hadn't, Councillor Junid, that we hadn't received a response, I think, from the government. Well, that's no surprise because neither did Silver Voices, and yet they were promised it. Interestingly, the Prime Minister and Liz Kendall, who's the Secretary of State, obviously for the DWP, they're still claiming their £350 a month heating allowance. Quite obviously, I'll be looking quite closely at that going forward as to who claims that. One of the other things I wanted to say is that we pensioners, and I am one of the pensioners.
No, surely not.
Yeah, we have a strong voice, but often we don't use that voice. And it's with 16 million pensioners across the country, 25% of the population here being pensioners, we don't need to take this. We don't need to be ignored. We have the power ourselves to be able to vote at the ballot box and vote out any party that does not recognise our rights and benefits that we should have received this year. The removal of the winter fuel allowance has nothing to do with the Conservatives and the black hole. It's everything to do with, if you like, punishing those that don't work, the most vulnerable. You often hear Labour talk about they'll protect those that work. Well, unfortunately, those on fixed incomes and low incomes, such as pensioners, don't fall into that category. So I will be supporting this. I'm not happy that we've lost the opportunity last October to join other local authorities in condemning this. It's rather lost its momentum. However, I will support this going forward, and I would hope that pensioners will vote against any party that does not stand up for them.
Thank you. Can I ask if Councillor Mills, the seconder, wants to say anything at this point? Oh, does anybody else want to say something? Yes. Okay, we've got one or two more coming forward. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm in support of the motion and the amendment. I think I made a point at the last council meeting of supporting the substantive motion because I believe that that's what we were all working towards. I believe that's the case again. I don't think that there's much space between that, and I mean, frankly, none of us here are Labour members, and I think it's fair to say that we are appalled at what's been seen nationally with this policy. We agree on that. I don't think that what's being proposed as the amendment does undermine what you've got, but I do say that on the basis that part of the transparency that we demonstrate is by showing what we are doing. I completely accept there's always more work to be done on transparency, but that's why I kind of support this as it is in terms of the amendment. I think it speaks to what the council is doing for our community in the face of a appalling budget on this matter, and I'm keen to continue to work together for our communities, because I think that's ultimately what we're all here to do. So yes, I like to think that we can make awareness of our agreement more than the areas where we might differ. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I too support the amendment, and I'm happy to do so. It is an important issue, but I thought I might go for the sympathy vote and point out that as I know, brace yourself, potentially once a pensioner, I am no longer a pensioner yet, because my pension was taken away by a previous Tory government.
Call to order. Now, I was asking, anybody else wishes to speak on this matter? Councillor Rock.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's a sort of confluence of opinion as to what we're trying to do here. That I think we're all joined in the fact that there's, to be honest, a bit of a cock-up by central government. However, we're a district council here, and I think things have been said about what we could do together to resolve it. I've just been passed a piece of paper here where things are happening. We appear to have arranged some drop-in sessions with courtesy of Citizens Advice, but I notice it's the district council here, in the offices here, and I don't know what else is going to go on, not just from the winter fuel allowance. Obviously, the 21st of December is upon us, so there's a question of the urgent and the important. But as Councillor Passingham has said, we've got all these homes that are substandard in terms of the energy efficiency. So there's an ongoing task that we can do within this district. And I'll call upon the Cabinet to look at what we can do locally for those of us in the Far East, including that old codger over there that represents an area in Southampton. So can we look at what other things can we do across the district? And this drop-in sessions are really useful, but this is not used to much people in the other edges of the district in the Far East. And I'm sure the same things apply in Studley and Shipston and elsewhere. So let's see what we can work together to do to try and resolve these problems with poor homes and people who are struggling, of all ages, I have to say, because there could be, single parents that are struggling as well. So I support the amended motion. Let's all get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call on Councillor Littlewood, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted that we're all in agreement. It's very, 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 very satisfying, and I appreciate Councillor Adams reminding us all that he was very much in support of the original motion. I've heard a lot of comments, and I hear great support, and that we should talk a lot and interview people and advertise things. It's rather like fiddling while Rome burns, isn't it? I mean, we need to do something practical. Councillor Rock, as you've just alluded to exactly that. I mean, 30,000 pensioners, that is over pensionable age in the district, as my colleague said earlier, £100 each, that's 3 million. We have that from interest. Let's use it practically. We have money there. We are put here to look after the population. We can do something practical. If everybody is in support of this motion, and I am sure we are, let us then call upon the Cabinet, as Councillor Rock already has to do, is not write letters, not have meetings. Let's do something to solve the problem, and let's do it now before people die. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I come back to anybody else wishes to speak? Councillor Johnson.
Are we come to the end of the debate? I wanted to speak, summing up on the amendment. If you remember, I reserve my right to speak.
Councillor, to be clear, so the amendment has been accepted. and therefore we're now the new motion is now the amended motion. So yes, you can speak to the motion.
You can speak to the new to the amended motion now. Yes.
Thank you very much. Obviously, I am seconding the amendment. I would urge the Council to support it. I do have some information about the work of Axon Energy. Home visits have been made to 1,933 households, 250 of which had children living at home, and 270 were of pensioner-only households. So we do get some information back. I've always been a little ambiguous about this because I first received a winter fuel payment in 2006. And as a higher rate taxpayer, I never understood why we were getting this. There were all sorts of ways people were promoting various charities that should give you a winter fuel payment to do something useful because you were getting it to no use to us. It didn't encourage sustainable fuel. It did need a review, but the Labour government so mishandled it by cancelling this at the time when fuel prices were just being increased. It's a shambles, but we need to do what we can to overcome.
Thank you. Any other speakers? May I ask Councillor Mills if he likes to speak a second?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's very good to see that we're all in agreement with this. Personally, I've had so many emails sent to me. I've never had so many emails sent to me regarding this withdrawal of the winter fuel allowance. I've tried to reply to them positively, and I'm glad to see that we're all in agreement today. So there you are, Madam Chair. Thank you.
May I call on Councillor Wally Hoggins to sum up the debate as proposer?
What a joy and a difference it's made today to be amongst you. We're all in agreement that this needs to get through, and I'm delighted, therefore, that we need to go to a vote or a nodding of heads. So thank you all for this, and I think that our residents will be heartened that finally, at this late juncture, that we can get this through. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you, councillors, for the debate. May I ask you to raise your hand if you are in agreement with the motion?
Oh, I think that's carried, Chair. Yeah.
I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion number 2, family farms and farmers. There's been a friendly Lib Dem amendment. David, to advise on this point.
Chair, thank you. So you should find on your desks a revised motion on the family farms and farmers motion. We've been advised that this has been accepted as a friendly motion, and therefore that will be the motion that is debated. Thank you, Chair.
I advise on Marcia to advise on rules of the debate.
Thank you, Chair. The rules of the debate were as before, so 3 minutes, proposer and seconder. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Wally Hoggins to propose the motion.
I'm delighted to be able to propose this motion, and I'd like to pay particular tribute to Councillor Lewis Adam, who was in close contact with me at the end of last week, including a telephone conversation regarding the proposed amendments before us. So thank you for the professional way in which you dealt with that. The meaning of it has not been lost. Thank you. This motion seeks to show meaningful support to our local farmers so that they have the strength to keep going until, as Jeremy Clarkson put it, until this shower of a government are gone in 5 short, what we hope is going to be short years rather than 5 long years. The next 5 years will undoubtedly be long and hard for many, and this includes our farmers. So we seek to support farmers through this period of time, through this notice of motion, as we all just need to survive. But I also note that, yet again, this is a significant notice on motion put forward by the Conservatives, and we found out the Lib Dems yet again found themselves clinging to the coattails of the Conservatives here. However, I'm not the farming expert here, and I'm actually going to pass the majority of this speech over to my esteemed colleague over here, who seconded the motion, Councillor Alan Scorer. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Scorer to second the motion.
It gives me great pleasure to second this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Do you reserve your right to speak? Excuse me, Councillor Scorer. Do you reserve your right to speak? You won't speak now, but you'll speak at the end of the...
I'll speak at the end.
Thank you. Those who wish to speak, can you raise your hand so we can actually make a list? Okay. Adam, Junit, and... Thank you. May I call on Councillor Adams to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I was very pleased to work with the Conservatives on this motion. I think it's an incredibly important one which does affect us all. We, as a very rural district, I think a majority of us will represent agricultural settings and businesses, but we are all affected, regardless of where we represent city dwellers alike, by the impact that agriculture suffers, particularly in the face of yet another government initiative. I think it's incumbent upon us as representatives within our community to do our utmost for our communities, and agriculture is fundamental to them. The way in which we interact with the environment, the way in which we put food on our plates is all tied up with this, and that's gets precious little attention. I'm somewhat dismayed by the framing of this debate nationally in terms of the few who are trying to get through a tax loophole, when actually the majority will be affected by this, and those are the ones that we actually have a duty to serve. I think it's an incredibly important one. Again, I'm very glad to work collaboratively on it, and I expect that raising the awareness at this local level will also perpetuate the importance of it as a wider issue. So thank you.
Thank you. May I call on Councillor Junid?
Yeah, I think I'm probably the only person, please correct me if I'm wrong, that is actually directly from a farming family, that is descended from a farming family. I'm not sure whether that's correct. So I actually understand it from a first-hand point of view. I also understand not only the difference between the family farm, but also the farming, the investment. And I'll tell you why I know this. Because I grew up as the oldest of 4 children of a farmer. And I worked on the farm as a teenager and again in my 20s. It was something that I was very keen on and I had thought to kind of continue. But in the end, for a variety of reasons, I went out of farming, and it was my sister that carried on. Now, my father was the youngest of a farming family in Devon, and for many years he was a tenant farmer on a farm owned by an investment, as an investment measure. He was finally able to buy the farm in the 1960s when the land was sold after the landowner died. It had been used as an investment tool, and very, very little money had gone into the farm at all. So he had to pick up the pieces. My father worked hard. He was very proud of his pedigree Frisian herd. He won many prizes at shows, including at the Royal Agricultural Show. And when he died, the farm passed to my younger sister. But the farm was not very profitable, and this is where the family farm bit comes in, because having picked up the pieces from the state of the farm when he first took it on and investing in the farm, there was very little left. So it was my sister that sold the farm, and after the debts were cleared, there was very little left at all. So I know the difference between the family farm and working on the family farm and the investment tool. And at the moment, this Labour government just isn't getting it. And I really do think that there needs to be a much clearer approach and support for the family farm rather than for the investment farm. And it's the family farm that we want to look after. So I'm happy for this motion to go forward.
Thank you. Councillor Coucher.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased also to support this motion and the amendment to it as well. I mean, I think this is a crass piece of action which this government has actually taken, which is very prejudicial to rural areas and to food producers, which are so very, very vital for this country. I think whilst we may wish to see financial constraints put on land speculators and those who are using agriculture as a way of avoiding inheritance tax, what this has done is it actually has included the whole of the agricultural industry. And that is, I think, frankly, a very serious mistake altogether. Obviously, we will have, I'm sure, within this district, farms which will be struggling as a result of this, and certainly we as a council will be working with the Growth Hub and others to make sure that whatever advice we can give, we will do, because frankly this is a very, very important sector and a sector that we want to support. It's vitally important that we continue to produce our own food, and particularly in this district, and that we give every support to those producers.
Thank you. Councillor Hatch.
We support farmers, but we don't support large landholders who simply buy land as a tax loophole. So the Greens do think that the agricultural property relief needs to be changed, and therefore won't be supporting this motion. We concede there are two major flaws in what Labour has set out, which will have unintended consequences. Firstly, the threshold is too low. Despite the Treasury's own figures, many small family farms will be affected. And we think the 1 million threshold should be reassessed, possibly tripled. And secondly, there is no proposal for regulation on who could buy any parcels of land that may come up for sale as a result of these changes. So possibly worsening the corporate land grab that is in existence. If those two measures were in place, we would support the government's changes. At the moment, agricultural property relief is attracting the likes of Dyson to buy up any available land, and this is making land prices too high. One consequence of this makes it difficult for any new entrants to farming. With an average age of 59, the farming sector is crying out for new entrants. We also believe that the largest estates should pay their fair share of inheritance tax. We recognise that the budget feels like the last straw for farmers, as there are other major issues that are making farming vulnerable. Brexit, the threat of cheap imports, the stranglehold of supermarkets, and the lack of long-term government commitment to sustainable food production. 2 years are as far as the government is going at the moment.
1 minute left.
These are all urgent threats that need to be addressed to enable farmers to make a living out of producing food. So our letter to the Secretary of State will include the following: protect farmers from cheap imports, commit more than 2 years ahead to current levels of farm subsidies, reassess the 1 million exempt level, and also keep it linked to land prices and inflation, and implement regulations for the purchase of agricultural land which would prioritise and support existing tenants, actual farmers and community groups. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shenton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Farmers themselves, farmers generally produce high quality food and ensure that we have some level of food security. They're key in the fight to reduce climate change effects by using new methods, soil improvement, increasing biodiversity and much more. They deserve better than the shabby removal of the exemption that had been given under the agricultural property relief. It's anticipated, as a note in the motion, that over 8,000 farms closed last year. And this change in inheritance tax will surely accelerate this process, reducing food security and increasing the number of farms that are held by private equity individuals. Farmers have already seen a reduction in the direct farming support and will see a massive reduction in the basic payment scheme. Many get only 25% of what they were receiving more recently. According to the government and HMRC, around 29% of farms would be affected. However, the NFU dispute this and say over 2/3 would be, due to the measurement that used. I know who I trust, and that's the NFU measurement. If the government wishes to distribute to certain groups in society, it should do so directly, not by using the inheritance tax scheme, which is a blunt tool and not targeted enough for this purpose. The government have failed, even on the latest reset, to clearly set out what its actual aims are, preferring to target those who have great wealth on paper, but actually often earn below the minimum wage. Gifts of more than 7 years before death are not subject to inheritance tax.
1 minute to go.
But the current ruling and the changes made won't give farmers that ability to take advantage of the 7-year rule because it applies straight away. And just to wind up, to give some idea of what farmers do get, I've been advised that milk, 2 Weetabix, milk and sugar, a farmer gets 7 pence for that, and the Labour government are hammering them on reliefs and on the agricultural relief. We should send a clear message to the Labour government: we will not put up with this.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Crump.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, lots of things why should we be doing this. Food security, knowing where our food comes from, rather it being flown in on aeroplanes or coming in on ships. High standards of animal husbandry in a lot of places. And the other thing as well, that farmers are a vital part of our community. Storm Dara, who was there with their tractors and telelifters trying to help the councils clear roads, help with flooding. It wasn't the Labour government, I can tell you that. It was our farmers. And they also provide facilities for many events in rural communities. We all know there's been tractor runs and there's going to be one locally in Southam and Napton over the next few days. And these tractor runs not only brighten the spirits and add to everybody's mental health and morale, but they also do a great thing, raising money for local charities. It shows their commitment to the local community. And I think this decision is a kick in the teeth for rural communities from a party which said very little in its bland 2024 election manifesto. This is just another indicator that they don't understand what a rural community is and what social glue farmers provide to keep the community together. Yeah, I've quoted several examples, and I think we should be supporting our farmers as much as possible to make sure they are still there, providing the food, the security, the social glue, the commitment, and helping when there is things like Storm Bert and Storm Dara. I can't remember the one beginning with C. Storm Crump, probably. That's a 60-year-old storm, by the way. And I've nearly finished, Councillor Fragsley. I do apologise. So basically, I'm supportive of this motion, and I think we should really be telling our communities that we are trying to, stick up for them, support them, and I think the current government has no idea. So thank you very much. Just one last thing. Somebody said the other day about this. Most governments hit the ground running. In this case, they've just hit the ground. So thank you.
Second-hand joke, I think. May I... recycled. May I call on Councillor Holmes?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's great that we're pretty much all in agreement how horribly that this government has got this wrong. But I wanted to put on record our thanks to our Member of Parliament who's spoken on this many times in the Chamber and met with farmers locally across the constituency and meeting them outside when they joined the campaigned outside Parliament. So I think it's great that we finally got a local champion who's involved in the community and standing up for local farmers. So yeah, I'd like to put that on record. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. May I call on Councillor Scorer, please?
Thank you, Chair. I really just want to sum it up a bit, really, and then we can go straight for the vote. As we all know, that we live in a rural district from the Cotswolds to the Vale of Evesham, Arden and Feldon. The autumn budget was a betrayal to farmers, small businesses and our countryside. Farmers are very hesitant to apply for new schemes at the moment, especially with the basic payment being cut by 76%. Also adding to a lack of general confidence at the moment in agriculture. I just want to maybe get this thought to you, but farmers hold the power to feed their locality and look after the countryside we all respect. If we lose our farmers, we lose our food security. So I think we should all recommend this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wally-Hoggins, do you want to wind up as proposed?
This matters. It matters to... It isn't just the immediacy that this matters, farming. It's whole generations, as Councillor Junod has talked about. This is, we're standing on their shoulders. We must do this, and we must, do what we can to support farming in this community, not just for now, but for future generations. Thank you. And all those industries that are linked into farming. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. May I ask you now to raise your hands if you are in agreement with this motion? As amended. Okay. It was sorry, yes, it was a friendly. It was friendly amended.
Okay.
Thank you.
Against? Okay, we've got no.
Thank you. And any abstentions? And so the motion is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. May we move now on to the third debate today, which is this motion, once proposed and seconded, will be debated. I invite Marcia Eccleston to advise on the rules of debate.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, the same rules apply as earlier. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Petrovic to propose the motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to propose this motion on the bus fare cap, an issue which has become a matter of pressing concern not just for our residents, but for all of the residents across the country. We know that since its introduction in January 2023, the £2 bus cab fare has provided significant relief to households struggling with the cost of living crisis. It has made travel more accessible and encouraged greater use of public transport, which is a vital step in reducing congestion, improving air quality, and addressing a climate crisis. Now, the government, which has said that is not going to increase tax on working class people, has decided to increase the fare cap to £3, which is effectively a 50% hike, and which will impact the most disadvantaged residents in our communities who rely on buses for work, school, and medical appointments. For these residents, buses are not just a convenience, they are a necessity. Increasing the fares to £3 risks isolating these communities even further. And we know from many other places across the country that this could potentially lead in so-called uneconomic routes due to reduced bus patronage to be cut, and therefore the lifeline for our most vulnerable residents may be cut. So we know that government claims that £2 cap is not financially sustainable, but I think this short-sighted view ignores the broader benefits of affordable public transport. For example, there are more than 50 cities across Europe that offer free public transport because they recognize its value in connecting people, boosting economies, and protecting the environment. So I urge the Council to adopt this motion and to send the clear messages to the government that public transport is a lifeline, not a luxury, and it must remain affordable for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I call for a seconder for this motion. Councillor Juned.
I second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. I'm looking to people from the floor who would like to contribute to this debate. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, I just want to say thank you very much for bringing this forward. It's something that certainly we in the Green Group strongly support. Thank you.
Any further contributions? Right, may I call on Councillor Juned as second?
Yes, thank you. But I actually didn't drive until I was 38, actually. So I relied on buses an awful lot when my children were young. But over the last 20 years, bus fares in real terms have risen significantly, particularly as a result of the deregulated market outside London. The £2 cap was actually part of a pilot study that was being studied, and it was due to end this December. It's now been continued for another year, but it is being a rise to a £3 cap, and that has actually had a significant impact on those people that need to use the buses on a regular basis because of the fact that it coincides with the cost of living crisis. It's not only that it affects young people and those on lower wages, but it also includes pensioners, particularly those who, for a variety of reasons, no longer are able to drive. It might be for health reasons or for a variety of reasons. One of the things that I would like to ask is that local authorities such as the County Council have had extra funds to improve bus networks. They do also have powers under the Local Transport Act to deliver modern integrated bus networks. So what I would like to do is to ask that this council works with Warwickshire County Council to see what can be done to further improve services, and I would include in that further improve electric buses in this district as well. So if we can start talking to the County Council about how we could work together in cooperation, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I come back to the proposer of the motion. Councillor Petrovic, do you wish to sum up? Yeah. In that case, we go straight to the vote. Please, will you raise your hand if you approve of this motion? Would you raise your hand if you object to this motion? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion is carried. We now move to, and I can find it, motion 4, to support reinstating the Stratford-Southbourne rail link. In accordance with council procedure rules, once proposed and seconded, the motion will be referred to the Cabinet for consideration and report without debate. I invite Councillor Parker to propose the motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose this motion. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Holmes to second this motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very happy to second this motion.
Thank you very much. That now goes to Cabinet. Item 14, urgent business. There is no urgent business. So the next meeting of the Council is scheduled to take place on Monday, the 24th of February, 2025. Where's 24 gone to? There'll be no further business, and I declare the Council meeting closed. But before you all go,